right, everybody. Welcome to Money Lion MMA. Back from a week off, coming at you with UFC Vegas 85 picks and winning bets. Before we get too far into things, let's give everyone a quick recap of our last card, which was UFC 297. This was Chris Curtis. This was a bunch of Canadian fighters, right? This was in Toronto, and we had the middleweight belt on the line. And Jose and I actually agreed on who would win the belt with lighter weights, and we were correct in the end, with Dricus du Plessis getting the new, and he is now the middleweight champion. Some people thinking Sean Strickland should have won. We could sit here and discuss that for an entire show, I'm sure. But I think any true non-biased fan that didn't have money on the fight, didn't have allegiance to Sean Strickland because they're American, or an allegiance to DDP because they're South African. I think if you just take all biases out of it, DDP won that fight. When you look at the takedowns, the control, I understand Strickland was able to get up. I really think they matched up really well, and Strickland wanted to go online and complain about a headbutt that caused the cut, and it wasn't a real, punching injury, which is actually proven wrong by some screenshots I showed. An overhand by DDP actually split open Sean's upper eye area, and it was exacerbated a little bit when DDP went to deflect the takedown, or the other way around. And it kind of opened it up a little bit, but it was already open from a punch. So Sean claiming that the whole thing started from a headbutt was just not true, but it did get exacerbated by it. So, I get it. I get, if you had money on Strickland, or if you're just a Strickland fan, I understand, maybe some frustration thinking he won the fight, but I just don't think objectively you can make that argument. Although it was close. Even Dana White said he thought Strickland won. We gotta look at I guess takedowns don't matter anymore, right? Getting 6 takedowns doesn't mean anything in a championship fight. So moving on from that, though, don't mean to sit on that too long. Jose and I both got those picks right anyways. Overall, Jose and I both above 500 for those picks. I went 3-2. Jose with the 4-1, almost a clean sweep. Jose's only incorrect pick was on Arnold Allen, where we disagreed. I had Evloev. That was a great fight, Arnold Allen. Definitely put up a fight, but Evloev he's just a beast, man. He's going to be one of the next best in that division. So that's pretty much it for UFC 297. Let's move on to UFC Vegas 85. We got coming to you guys this Saturday. It's going to be, of course, in Vegas. It's going to be a little earlier in the day. It looks like the prelims start at 3 p.m. Central Time, so we'll likely get a main card starting around 7 p.m. Central Time. So a little earlier than we might have seen out of Vegas. As always, Jose and I bringing you our picks in order of weight confidence. We're looking at all 13 fights on this card, and we're picking 5 of them. And we are assigning a weight confidence to that pick from 5 to 1, with 5 being the most confident, 1 being the least confident. Of course, if you still, 1 weight is less confident than 5 weight, but you're still more confident because it's one of the 5 picks of the 13 on this card that you're confident in getting correct. And as always, we're going to bring you guys our picks, starting with the most confident first. And I'm going to take us out of the main card here. This is a fight I've been looking at since the day it was announced, really, in terms of looking at betting this fight. I've been excited. I think this is just a great stylistic matchup. As I mentioned, this is a prelim, and this is Molly McCann versus Diana Belbita. Usually, I am not touching, especially with a 5-weight, right? Usually, I'm not too deep into women's MMA, but this is a situation where I think Molly McCann was absolutely set up for success. If you look at Molly McCann's professional losses, specifically those in the UFC, every single one was against a grappler, someone who threatens a wrestling, threatens jiu-jitsu submissions, right? Erin Blanchfield, a title contender, probably the next champion of her division. It's not too upsetting to get submitted. And then Julia Stoliarenko also submitted her last year. Molly McCann does not, in my opinion, have a submission threat against Diana Belbita. And I think that that is absolutely set up for her success. Diana Belbita is a good striker, don't get me wrong, but she really, as much as she gives, she takes back in terms of damage. And I really think Molly McCann is in the advantage spot with this being a war, right? With this being a gritty fight. We've seen Molly McCann get her spinning back elbows back to back, right? When she goes into the losses against top end fighters. Diana Belbita is not a title contender at this point. She is two wins of 7 in the UFC, right? So Diana Belbita, in my opinion, is on the come down, and that's going to continue. She's going against just a stalwart in the striking who is ready to sit in your face, sit in your pocket, and just throw heat the entire fight. I really think we're looking at Molly McCann to win inside the distance here, and that is my 5 weight. Jose, what are you thinking about this one?
Yeah, Nick. So I actually do not have a weight on this card. Actually, most of my weights I are on the main card, but this one, yeah, it's a tough draw. It's a tough call because Molly McCann, Meatball Molly, she's got the power. She can get the job done. Her opponent Diana, she's not really that impressive. 15-8. Really has not been in the UFC long. I don't know. I don't really see anything special about her. So, I should have definitely opened it up to the prelims. I know we can. I just didn't this week, but this definitely is a pick for me too, though. So, I definitely back you up on Molly McCann on this one.
Sweet. Yeah. So, and as I reiterated at the beginning of the show, we're not going to have uh, all the same picks. So it's totally understandable that you don't have a weight on this, but I think everybody appreciates still hearing your input and whether or not you generally agree or disagree. And I think without kind of beating the bush over and over again, I'm just not impressed by Belbita and what she's been able to do. They do have a common opponent in Hannah Goldie, in which Molly McCann finished in 3 minutes 52 seconds. Diana Belbita had to go all the way to a decision unanimous. So they both were able to beat Hannah Goldie, the common opponent, relatively recently, but the difference is shown right there in Molly McCann's power and her highlight making ability to just put Hannah Goldie out in round 1 instead of drag it on for 3 rounds. So sounds like you generally agree with me, but I have my 5 weight on Molly McCann.
And I feel better hearing that because Goldie, unfortunately, she's not really that good to be honest. I don't think she's in the UFC anymore either. And from what I recall, yeah, like that's a fight Molly was definitely like they almost fed her to Molly, and Molly definitely needed to get that win. So for
True.
this one, I definitely feel that much more confident with going with Molly McCann on this one.
Sweet. So yeah, that'll be my 5 weight, and then we will move on right away to Jose's 5 weight for UFC Vegas
So
85.
yeah, my 5 weight is my bad. My internet's closed. My 5 weight is between Randy Brown and Muslim Salikov, and right now Randy Brown is the betting favorite at -250, while Muslim Salikov is the betting underdog at +190. This one, I'm going with the favorite Randy Brown. Compared compared to Muslim, he is just bigger. He is 6'3", while Muslim's 5'11". And the reach that Randy Brown has is an 8-inch reach over Muslim. I think that alone is going to be problematic for Muslim. And even then, his leg reach for Randy Brown is 4.5 inches longer too. So overall, Randy Brown is just a bigger guy when he's next to Muslim Salikov, and I think that's going to be causing some issues for sure. And along with that long reach advantage, he also has a high striking percentage as well. He lands 4.38 significant strikes per minute and absorbs 3.33, while Muslim lands 3.37 and absorbs 2.91. So I think Randy Brown is definitely going to get the better end of these exchanges against Muslim on the feet. And when it comes to grappling, Randy Brown has some solid takedown defense too. Muslim's definitely going to be the one that's going to be engaging this fight in the grappling department, and he's definitely you can expect him to want to close the distance. And I would say he would probably even maybe would want to get a submission. Most of his finishes are via KO/TKO, but Randy Brown has been submitted before, so if Muslim's going to come in and be the more dominant grappler in this matchup, I don't see why he would waste as much time striking unless he is grounding and pounding. But if he's gonna ground and pound, I think he could find his way into a submission victory. But I think Randy Brown just is going to be tougher. He's younger and bigger, and he throws a high volume of strikes. I think it's no question, why he's a strong favorite in this one. And for me, that's also why he is my 5 weight. What are your thoughts on this fight, Nick?
Man, I totally agree with you. I like, and in fact, this could almost be considered a double 5 weight, really. Randy Brown. I'm big on Randy Brown here. I kind of had a little bit different of a thought process than you on this one. I do like the reach advantage, and I think it helps specifically maybe in scenarios where he's just a bigger body. It's harder to take him down. So the rest of the defensive wrestling scenarios is what I'm thinking. But also just in looking at it, man, I think there's something to be said. Muslim Salikov, right? When you hear that name, you kind of expect him to be, he's Russian, a Russian wrestler, just like the Sambo, like I'm going to sit on you and control you like a bear. But I just have not seen a single instance in his UFC career, Muslim Salikov's UFC career, where he has been able to do that. Let's go all the way back to his UFC debut against Alex Garcia. He got choked out. He got choked out. Muslim Salikov does not have a finish via submission in his UFC career. It's not something he even attempts very often. In fact, I'm not sure he even has one recorded submission attempt on his UFC record. So to me, I see zero threat of a submission. Not a single one. Not even a morsel of submission threat. In fact, Randy Brown, I would argue, may feel somewhat of a danger on the ground. Randy Brown is the kind of guy who can get submissions. And I understand, yes, he was submitted by a guy like Jack Della Maddalena last year. But Randy Brown got taken down 3 times by Warley Alves and got a submission triangle choke in the second round. Randy Brown's the kind of guy who's going to get taken down and still go for your neck, right? He's just going to be on the ground and like, oh, I got to get up and fight him back. Like, he will choke you out on the ground. He has more submission attempts recorded than Muslim Salikov. And I understand Randy Brown has more extensive of a UFC career. But even if you just snip the last 5 fights of Randy Brown's career, he's done more on the ground than Muslim Salikov has. Maybe I'm overlooking at it, but I have a lot less respect for Muslim Salikov's wrestling and jiu-jitsu. If he doesn't even attempt, right, he just wants to take you down and lay on you. I don't respect that enough. I don't think Salikov has any advantage on the feet. I think if he goes and tries for takedowns, he's going to fail. And even if he does take down Randy Brown, I think Randy Brown either gets up or reverses the scenario to get a submission of his own. I just don't see very scenarios where Salikov is in the advantage here. From size to technique to just the statistics we are looking at. So I agree with you, Jose. Pretty confident here in Randy Brown.
Yeah, and that's the best way to put it. I just don't see. Yeah, I don't really see Muslim taking the victory Saturday. If he does, interested to see how that turns out. But for this one, yeah, just like you said, it's an Molly McCann definitely. Like I should definitely should have threw in there because she definitely would have been my 5 or my 4 weight as well. So definitely just a strong opinion about Randy Brown, just as Molly McCann. So. Can't say enough. I just overall think athleticism, age, striking differential, and like you mentioned, on the ground too, being a dog, he's gonna still. Yeah, I can actually see Randy Brown probably getting the submission win himself. And
That's what I'm saying.
I just think overall how big he is going to be very problematic. So that being said, yep, Randy Brown is my 5 weight, and he is your 4 weight.
Yeah, I would say that's for sure the lock of the week for Moneyline MMA. I love Molly McCann. So she's the secondary lock of the week since you also agree. But the fact of the matter is there's a little bit more variance in women's MMA. There's always something that could go wrong. And of course it's the same with this fight, right? Salikov could theoretically get a takedown and hold on to him and get like he could get a 2-round decision win, right, or something like that. I could see that there is a chance that happens, but I just the odds of that to me are just so low. I think almost a money line Molly Meatball and Randy Brown parlay is just big. That's just where it's at this weekend. But yeah, that being said, I think we move right on to Jose's 4 weight since we've gotten my 5 and 4 already covered.
Yes, and so my four-weight, this is the lightweight bout between Renato Moicano and Drew Dober. Right now, Moicano is the betting favorite at minus 148, while Drew Dober is the betting underdog at plus 116. Um, this one, both guys are coming off wins. Moicano coming off a first round submission over Brad Riddell, and Drew Dober also a first round win over Ricky Glenn via TKO. I'm going to be going with Moicano on this one. Both dudes are going to bring it, I know for sure, but in this one, I'm going to go with the favorite Moicano. And both guys on the feet is going to be a strong striking match. We've seen Drew Dober and Moicano, get in wars back and forth with many guys now, and in this one, it's gonna be a close one. I got Moicano. He's got a 2 inch reach advantage as well. And he's also 3 inches taller than Drew Dober. So I do think, kind of like the last one, the size and a guy that's got size and a high striking differential. I always think that those guys I always lean the heaviest towards, just because logically it just makes sense that they're gonna probably get the better end of the exchanges. And even in both guys just land almost like 5 significant strikes per minute, and Moicano does take significantly less damage. Not too much, I guess, not too significant, but he does take a little bit less damage than Drew Dober. And Moicano probably would be the one to go more for the takedowns as well. He goes for 1.66 takedowns per 3 round fight versus Drew Dober's 0.68. And Moicano's got better takedown defense. So when it comes to the grappling department, I'm probably gonna end up thinking that Moicano will have the advantage. Out of his 17 wins, 10 of them come via submission. And Drew Dober, just like his last win, he's mostly just a clanging bang guy. And if he's gonna get the win, it's gonna be first or second round. He's just gonna be coming in hot, trying to get a TKO in one of those. And Moicano's only been KO'd 3 times out of his career. He's fought 22 times and he's only been KO'd 3 times, I should say. Lost 5 and has only been KO'd, so he's TKO'd 3 times. So the chances of Drew Dober doing that to Moicano is not very likely at all. So this one, yeah, I'm going with Renato Moicano. I think he's gonna get the win, either unanimous decision, or I think he'd probably be able to sneak in a submission on Drew Dober. A third of Drew Dober's losses do come via submission. So that being said, I got Moicano as my four-weight. Nick, what are your thoughts on this fight?
Man, this will be the first one we disagree on for the show. And specifically, man, I'm gonna disagree that I think it's unlikely that Drew Dober finishes Moicano. I think that's extremely unlikely. Well, I should say I think that I think it's not smart to say. I think it's going to happen. Maybe not going to happen. I think it has a good chance of happening. Maybe that's the best way to word it. Let's just go into the height thing. Renato Moicano lost to RDA in 2022. RDA is the same size as Drew Dober, and I think that has, it shows the size isn't as big of a factor when it's only a couple of inches. I feel like RDA is also 5'8", also 70-inch reach. And on top of that, Drew Dober beat Ricky Glenn at the end of 2023. Ricky Glenn's 6 foot tall. Ricky Glenn's like, a friggin' half a foot taller than him. And guess what? Still knocked him out in the first round. I've got a lot of respect for Drew Dober. I think he lulls his opponents into this like sense of like, yeah, we're just going to sit here and box, man. We're going to sit here and bop. You're done. See ya. And it's very likely that it could happen to him too. Like the steamroller Frevola did it to him earlier in the middle of 2023. Got the first round KO on Dober. Frevola is just a different, like his power is I would say on a different level than Moicano. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I've not gotten punched by them, so I can't confirm that myself. But this could be a situation where maybe I'm not respecting Moicano enough, but Moicano has seen some really good competition. He's been able to beat Cub Swanson, Calvin Kattar, but also lost to Aldo, the Korean Zombie, Fiziev. So it kind of seems like Moicano's great at winning the fights he should, not necessarily at the fights that he shouldn't. And I think the same of Drew Dober. He's lost to the champ, Makachev, And he fought Brad Riddell, ended up getting the loss there back in 2021. Went on a nice win streak till Frivola ended that. So he's 4-1 in his last five. I'm really looking at his last fight against Ricky Glenn being the one thing where I'm like, I don't think Drew Dober's lost a step, because that's the one thing that would concern me about Drew Dober is like eventually he's going to lose a step with this style that he's got of just moving forward, trusting his chin, and trusting that your chin won't last as long as his. I mean, he's in his mid 30s now. When he gets to his upper 30s, I'm a little bit more concerned. But for now, he just did it to Ricky Glenn like it was easy. And I'm sorry to say, I think there's a great chance it happens to Moicano again this weekend. Maybe not necessarily first round, but I really think Drew Dober inside the distance is the only way to bet here if you're going to bet Drew Dober, because there's just almost a 0% chance he's getting this to a decision and winning. If this goes to a decision, then Jose might have been right about the wrestling and jiu-jitsu aspect, and Moicano just kind of held him down. Otherwise, if these dudes stand and bang with each other, it's ending early, in my opinion. So, Drew Dober, and I guess I should clarify, we disagree, but he is my two weight. So, just a little less confident in Drew Dober.
No, I hear you. Yeah, Drew Dober. I like Drew Dober in a lot of other matchups. I like Drew Dober a lot, and I do agree with you. Dude can step forward in his last two wins, especially against Bobby Green and Ricky Glenn, just putting those guys out cold in the first and second round. He is on a streak, and he did get, but he also, yeah, like you mentioned, Matt Frivola as well finished Drew Dober. Yeah, this one's a tough one. Maybe, you know what? If I were to have redone it, I would have had pushed this one down to my three-way, and I would have put probably Molly McCann at my four-way. But um, because I do feel stronger about McCann, but I guess she's not on here. But yeah, this one is one we're gonna have to agree to disagree on.
Mm-hmm.
I got Moicano as my four-way, and you got Drew Dober as your two-way.
Sounds good, and yeah, that's the one thing about doing this show on Monday, dude, is we got 5 days really until fight night, and a lot really can happen between media and weigh-ins and stuff like that, press conferences, and ideas can change and your feelings can change. Statistics could come out that might point one way or the other. So it's totally reasonable if you want to switch around your picks a little bit, your weights a little bit. It would be odd if you're like 5 weight completely drop down to your 1 weight, but I don't think to have your full weight go to your 3 weight. I mean, that would make sense. And like you said, in the end, we'll still be disagreeing no matter what. On this one, I've got the underdog, Drew Dober, hoping for the inside the distance KO. You've got Moicano. Moving forward, let's go to my 3 weight of the afternoon. And we're going to go back to the women's side of MMA here. I believe this is one of the heaviest favorites, if not the heaviest favorite of the card. Definitely of at least the females on this card. Natalia Silva is the currently slated to be right in the middle of the third fight of the main card, fighting Viviane Araujo. And Natalie Silva is my 3 weight. I'm definitely taking the favorite here. I believe she's somewhere around minus 270. She's been a stud. I mean, she's dominated pretty much everybody in the UFC. Although her last opponent, Andrea Lee, did bring her to a decision. It was a pretty unanimous, easy decision to make. It wasn't like it was, that close. I mean, Silva opened her UFC career against Jasmine Jasudavicius. That's pretty impressive. And gets the win. It was also a decision, but landed a couple of takedowns, tripled her in strikes landed. I mean, very, very through and through performance by Silva. And that's what I'm looking at when I put her as my 3 weight here. I really just think she's as good or better in all stages of the game here compared to Viviane Araujo. Viviane's main, I would say, advantage, you could argue, would be experience. But if we're going to talk experience, it has to be UFC experience only, because Natalia Silva has more professional fights under her belt than Araujo does, just not in the UFC necessarily. So that being said, man, Araujo, yes, she has some more experience. What's interesting about her, though, every single one of her UFC fights has gone to decision, outside of her debut back in 2019, in which it was 48 seconds left. Like she was 48 seconds from every single one of her UFC fights. She has like 10 UFC fights, and they're all decision. And what is it? One of those fights was a 5-rounder. She got the main event back in 2022 against Alexa Grasso and lost. So she had 1-5 in a fight in there. But otherwise, Araujo's kind of your, run-of-the-mill, just like kind of keeping up the pace, trying to get the 2 rounds that it requires to get the decision win. She's not necessarily going to push the pace and try and finish you from the start. I mean, you can even look at her stats against Jennifer Maia. She got almost doubled in significant strikes and gets the unanimous decision win still due to 7 minutes of control time on the ground. So I'd be worried if we didn't see grappling success out of Silva in the past against respectable fighters like Jasudavicius. But even in that fight, man, Jasudavicius had more control time, even though Silva landed the takedowns. So that makes you wonder, like, Silva's main, and that kind of gets to why she's my 3-weight, not my 5-weight. Silva's main downside could be getting wrestled. She could just get wrestled. Arujo is very clearly ready to be the enemy, the bad guy. She doesn't care if it's a boring fight, is what I'm getting at. I think Arujo is ready to just wrestle and sit on her back for 15 minutes to get the decision win. So will Silva be able to stop that? She has a 92% takedown defense. I'd like to think she could, although it's a small sample size. So in the end, that's kind of what went in my head back and forth as I made my pick here. 3-weight is what I landed on. I like Silva a lot. I just would be a little careful putting her in any large parlays just because you really, like, there's this small chance that Arujo just comes in and creates the most boring fight the UFC has seen since Carla Esparza versus the bald girl. I can't remember her name. Rose. So let's just hope that doesn't happen. I've got Silva to win this fight 3-weight. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I have Silva taking this win as well, but I have her as my 2-weight, and the reason is you did mention that Silva does have a lot of experience outside the UFC, but the one thing I definitely have going for Vian is just the level of competition she's had in her career. You know, going against she went to the distance with Alexa Grasso. She's went the distance against Amanda Rivas, Kaylin Chokakian, Jessica I. These are losses she got. She did not get finished in these losses. She just lost unanimously, and three of these fighters have held and fought for the title. So she's gotten really good experience in her time in the UFC, but she is older now. She's 37, so her time really is now or never. 37 in this division, while Natalia Silva, she's coming, just 3 fights into the UFC, 4 fights, I should say, into the UFC, winning all of them, but being 26. Yeah, you're right. Vivian could be possibly the bad guy and just be a vet and get a win, and do whatever, means necessary it is to get it done. So I do see some value in Vivian being the underdog in this one, but I am going with the promising Natalia Silva. I just think she herself she can finish out of her 16 wins. 5 of them come via KO and 7 come via submission. So I could see Vivian possibly herself getting submitted. She's never been submitted before, but I can see Natalia possibly out grappling her. It just I can see Sylvia possibly out grappling her in this one. Vivian's got strong grappling, but I think Natalia may come out slightly on top. But again, I do see a value in Vivian as the underdog, so that's why Natalia is my 2-weight. But yeah, in this one I agree with you, Natalia taking the win, but I'm not as confident, so she is my 2-weight on this one.
Sounds good. Yeah, man. Not too much else to add from that. I think it's reasonable concern. But in the end, Silva should get the job done. Let's go ahead and move right on forward then and discuss your 3-weight.
So for my 3-weight, this fight comes between Nazar is the main event, the middleweight bout between Roman Dolidze and Nasruddin Imavov. Right now, Dolidze is the betting underdog at plus 124, while Nasruddin Imavov is the betting favorite at minus 160. I swear I'm not going with the trend, I'm just going with the favorites. But for this one, I'm going to go with Imavov. I think Roman Dolidze, he just kind of got out grappled and just was not the better fighter against Marvin Vettori. And right now, Imavov, he is taking a step up. He's fought against Sean Strickland. Did not go his way, but again, that's the champ, and he had that no contest against Chris Curtis. His level of competition has been kind of up and down. Going from Edmund Shabazian, Joaquin Buckley, Sean Strickland, and then Chris Curtis. The level of competition he's seen is just all over the charts. And Roman Dolidze, he's fought good guys. He's lost to Marvin. He's beaten Jack Hermanson and Phil Hawes. I still think though, like even his loss to Trevin, he's lost to Trevin Giles back in 2021. I think Nasruddin in this one is the better fighter in that sense. I think he's gonna get the better exchange of these. He's gonna get the better end of these exchanges. He lands more significant strikes per minute. He lands almost 5 per minute, while Roman Dolidze just slightly over 3. But that being said, Roman is probably going to be the better grappler in this one. I just think Nasruddin, it can really go almost any way in this fight. Whoever dictates their game plan, I think Nasruddin is going to be the slightly better striker. And if it stays on the feet, and he has good takedown defense too. Nasruddin has a 72% takedown defense. So as long as it stays on the feet, I'm going to go with Nasruddin winning it. Roman Dolidze does have a slight 1-inch reach advantage, but in this matchup, I'm not too worried about that. Nasruddin throws a lot of shots, but he does take quite a bit too. He absorbs 3.76 significant strikes per minute. So that's the only thing that I am a little worried, is just that he does absorb strikes at a little higher, bit of a higher rate. But he's actually never been knocked out before. So I don't know if Roman would be the one to knock him out. If anything, I think Roman would be one to possibly submit him, maybe, but definitely not knock him out. This one, it's very like middle ground on it. So I do have Nasruddin Imavov as my 3-weight. What are your thoughts on this fight, Nick?
We got another disagreement. I have a 1-weight on Roman Dolidze, and I generally pretty much agree with your assessments there. I think you're right. Dolidze's path to victory, in my eyes, is wrestling, jiu-jitsu, get a submission, right? And the one thing I would note from what you said that I may not agree with is his fight against Marvin Vettori. I think Dolidze needed to go with the wrestling and jiu-jitsu more. He tried one takedown attempt. In my opinion, his path to victory against Vettori would have been similar. Go for the wrestling, go for the takedowns. He's very clearly got the advantage there when he can make it, when he can get to that point. He wins a fight against Jack Hermanson, who takes him down, but doesn't keep him down on the ground. And he gets back up and KOs Jack Hermanson. That's the kind of Roman Dolidze I'm putting my 1-weight on here. But with the caveat that I agree, if this stays standing and they're just going to box it out, Imavov is going to get the better of the exchanges. You mentioned that, and I pretty much agree. I think Imavov has lost to the top end of the strikers of the middleweight division. Obviously, Chris Curtis was no contest, but Sean Strickland's a respectable loss. No longer the champ, but still a very respectable loss. I'm also looking at his loss against Phil Hawes, right? This is what Dolidze really needs to take a look at when preparing for this fight. Hawes lands 4 of 7 takedown attempts for over 11 minutes of control time. It is very possible to take down Imavov and control him on the ground. If Dolidze goes for that strategy, I think my 1-weight holds. If Dolidze goes for the strategy that he had against Vettori, Imavov is going to come out of here successful. That's the way I look at it. I've got a 1-weight on Dolidze, hoping, crossing my fingers, praying that his team has recognized his strengths, has recognized his opponent's weaknesses, and they're formulating a game plan accordingly, instead of just going in there, hoping to box it out and getting well outstruck by a kind of average Marvin Vettori. So I totally understand where people are coming from in not picking Dolidze, and the fact that he's a plus 124 underdog, it makes sense, but I think that's great value for a guy who has a serious path to victory. It's quite obvious in my opinion. I just don't know if he will execute it. 1-weight, Roman Dolidze.
No, yeah, I hear you. Definitely. Yeah, I thought this would be closer too. He is the underdog right here in this one. I honestly thought I would have been surprised if he was a favorite in this one, but plus 124. I thought it would have been a lot closer. Minus 160 for Nasruddin. Yeah, I'm with you. I feel we're gonna have to agree to disagree on this one. I'm middle on it, and this probably would have been also again if I would have put Molly in this would have been knocked down one too. But the way it is my 3 weight, and you have I have Nazarene as my 3 weight, and you have Roman Dolidze as your 1 weight.
Yep, and then I think that just leaves us your last pick then. We've covered all of my picks, and you just have a 1 weight remaining.
For my one weight, this is the fight between Gilbert Urbina and Charles Radke. This is on some cards I've seen on the main card. For the most part, I was seeing this on on the main card as the opener, so that's the way I treated this fight as. And in terms of when it comes to, I've not been seeing this. Actually, I see it right now. In this one, Charlie Radke, he is the betting underdog at plus 162, while Gilbert Urbina is the betting favorite at minus 210. For this one, I'm gonna go with Chuck Buffalo. Charlie Radke, we saw him make that his UFC debut back in September. He won via unanimous decision. He had a controversial post-fight speech, and while Gilbert, he's coming off a win himself via second round against Orion Koski, and he lost his UFC debut to Brian Battle, which is Brian Battle. He's been looking pretty good as of recent himself, coming off just beating AJ Fletcher via submission in the second round. Without a doubt, I think just the biggest reason why Gilbert is the betting favorite in this one is just based off his most recent win. And some people didn't think Charlie looked that impressive either against his unanimous decision win. And my personal opinion was that he did what needed to be done, and he got the fight. He just got the W. His cardio, I think, it can be do some work up on, but overall he's got good jiu-jitsu. And the UFC page, there's actually not much stats on his grappling at all. It's all zero, but he is a strong grappler. Definitely one of the best suits of his game. And when it comes to striking, he's not the fastest striker whatsoever. And so I think that's going to be a problem when it comes against Gilbert, because Gilbert thus far in the short time he's been in the UFC lands 6.33 significant strikes per minute, but he also absorbs 4.09. And he has a 3-inch reach advantage over Charlie Radke on this. And he's lost to submission. He's lost via submission once in his career. And Chuck, out of his 8 wins, he does have 2 submissions, but he does have really good jiu-jitsu though. Like, it can be like if the opportunity was to open up, he would find it. And right now he's riding a 5-fight winning streak. And he's seen it all. He's seen split decisions, unanimous decision, chokes, and KOs. And he's right now 8-3 and 33. He just got into the UFC. He is older than Gilbert, but though Charlie's stats aren't really saying it, he's definitely better than what it shows on paper. So that's why I see a lot of value in him as being the underdog in this. But that's also why he's also my 1 weight, because Gilbert too, he can also, he's just a couple wins away too from really getting on a good path to entering and being a ranked fighter in this division. So that being said, I'm going with Charlie. Not as much experience right now in the UFC. A lot of people don't know him yet. But I think in the second fight, if he showcases more of his strong grappling, he really show people how well versed he is in terms of controlling someone and grounding and pounding, and not because again he likes to stand up too and fight on the feet. But I just that's something I think he still needs to continue working on, and especially as he starts fighting more UFC fighters. That being said, yeah, he's just my 1 weight for this one. What are your thoughts on this fight?
Sorry, it's just kind of funny the way you ended that was just funny to me. I don't have anything weight wise, man. We covered all my weights. I'm a kid from Wisconsin. I love Charles Radke. I don't need to ramble on about the dude. Love him. He's from Wisconsin. He better be upping his game. He's fighting a dude that's a bit bigger than him. He's going to need to have a lot more conditioning than what he had. Let's just also mention the fact that the opponent that he struggled to beat Blood Diamond, was also finished. Well, not finished, I should say. Lost via unanimous decision, was almost tripled in striking by Orion Koski, who then lost to Gilbert Urbina. So a little bit of MMA math there makes me worried that Gilbert Urbina is a little bit more prepared, or at least has the tools that Radke doesn't, because Urbina knocked the dude out. And Radke had to get the decision win against the guy who couldn't finish him. So I don't know, man. Just makes me a little concerned, but I love the thought that Radke is at least improving. He's getting better. He's younger, still, at least in the MMA sphere of things. So I have confidence that he will be able to at least put up a great fight.
Yes, sir. And I do want to note that yeah, Charlie, he is from our neck of the woods, and I've trained with him in the past, and here in Illinois as well. So like, so that's why, like, like on paper, like not as much, but he definitely has like a lot of accolades when it comes to the jiu-jitsu scene. So like hoping to like seeing his UFC career progress, that he's showcasing more of that. So that's why it is I am a little biased, I guess, and that's why I'm going for him, but there's still some questions that need to be answered, so that's why he's my one weight.
All right, well, that wraps it up for us here at Moneyline MMA. Shows might still be a little bit longer on the 45-minute end here going forward, since we're doing the 5 picks of all the fights on the card. So that actually gives you guys a little bit more pick action from us, as that was 6 fights on this card that we discussed. We almost covered half of the fight night card coming on Saturday. So very exciting stuff. Again, our lock of the week is going to be Randy Brown to beat Muslim Salikov, and a secondary lock of the week being Molly Meatball McCann to finish Diana Belbita. Thanks everybody for listening and tuning in. We will be, as always, back next week. The UFC's coming with a couple of weekends in a row now that we had that off time in that pay-per-view. UFC 298 will be coming, I believe, earlier or middle in February. I'd have to verify the exact Saturday, but I believe it will be 2 weeks from this Saturday. So let's look forward to that. Of course, UFC 299 and 300 down the line. But yeah, thanks again for listening, and have a good afternoon.